Drea, Humphrey here with Rebel News with what might be a familiar face to you. More recently, I've interviewed you a couple of times, Gunn, because you were running. You just recently announced that you were going to go for it premier, and that was going to be done hopefully through the leadership race for the BC Liberals. If you're not familiar with Gunn, you are also a social media influencer and an independent journalist. So I'm going to get to this story, the side of the story that the mainstream media won't tell you, of course. But before we jump into why you are no longer a candidate for this race, I want to ask you guys a favor. If you appreciate that we bring you the other side of the story at Rebel News, please consider donating to help support our journalism at realreporter.ca. We don't get a penny from the federal government like the mainstream media, so you guys are all we got to bring you the news like this. All right, so if anybody wants to kind of see the backstory of what you've been doing with the race, they can go to rebelnews.com and search your name. But tell us how you got booted out of being a candidate.
Well, that's a good question, Drea. You know, we were 2 weeks into our campaign. We felt we had all the momentum on our side. We were getting the biggest turnouts at events. We were getting people signing up en masse who just wanted to bring common sense back to British Columbia and have a real debate and a real discussion. And we were completely blindsided by the party last Friday. And they basically just kicked us out on innuendo and from my opinion, basically complete fabrications. And because they thought we were going to win and thought we were a threat to the little enclaves of power that many of these people have carved out for themselves.
Well, maybe you're right with that. I could see just before you did your announcement that you were in fact going to be running, the NDPs put out a statement that said you were going to be sort of paving the way for discrimination within the Liberal Party. Do you think, is that what this had to do, or was there something else?
Oh, I definitely think it was something else. Look, you mentioned the press release put out by the NDP, but to a certain extent, we all expect that from the left now. It was just, when I saw that, when email came into the inbox, or people started pointing me to it, it was to be expected. What's different about this is you have the BC Liberals, which in British Columbia are supposed to be the right-leaning party, who are basically copy and pasting NDP talking points and NDP attacks against one of their own. Remember, this is a party that asked me to run for them during the last election. This is a party that asked me to come and campaign for their MLAs during the last election. And then when they have a leadership race, they say they want renewal, they say they want young blood. I step up, I create all this energy, and then once they figure that, oh my God, this guy might actually have a chance of winning, they shoot me down and cut me out of the race.
Was there something said about you not supporting reconciliation? Was that one of the things?
Yeah, so the excuse that they're hiding behind is that I don't support reconciliation, it's such a shameless excuse. You have a 7-person committee who made this decision and used reconciliation as the excuse, when the only Indigenous person actually in the race, Ellis Ross, is on record multiple times saying that I should be allowed to run, and actually submitted a letter on my behalf to that same committee, and yet they're still using it. And some of the tweets that they pointed to or tried to point to are ones where I made these controversial and horrific observation that despite some of the mistakes that Canada made in the past, they should not be compared to genocide like what happened in Rwanda and like the Holocaust. So I don't think that's a controversial opinion at all. And that's what they're trying to point to. But it's just amazing because they're using reconciliation. None of them are Indigenous. The actual Indigenous person in the race saying is like, what are you talking about? Aaron's a good guy. He should be allowed to run. And he's actually one of my competitors. So I think it goes to show that they're just using that as, again, a fabrication, something to kind of shield themselves. And the real reason is because they don't want to have a real debate. They don't want to have a real discussion. And they're just trying to protect their little circles of power.
Let's show a clip right now of MLA Ellis Ross saying just that.
Morning, guys. As promised on Twitter, I said that I'd kind of explain what my thoughts were on Gunn's running for a BC Liberal leader, as well as the rejection of Gunn. Full disclosure, I liked Gunn. I met him a couple of times. I was in his videos to talk about resource development in relation to First Nations, and trying to dispel the myth that First Nations across the board don't oppose resource development. But really, I wasn't actually talking about supporting Aaron Gunn or his ideals. That wasn't what I was talking about. What I was talking about was really the ability for BC Liberal members to make up their own choice. So I'm really sorry for what happened to Aaron Gunn and his supporters. I know you guys are very passionate about BC, as well as me.
So what do you think is happening in BC in regards to our democracy? Why can't us, the people, decide who should have been the leader for this party?
Well, I think what's happening here in BC, and you've seen it happen in other provinces as well, is the political parties have accumulated too much power and are trying to turn Canada into a kind of managed democracy. You also see that with controls being placed on freedom of speech with bills like Bill C-10. And I think this is just another example where you have a small group of people who are trying to control the choices that Canadians will have, or British Columbians in this case will have, where they eventually go to vote. Now, the fortunate thing is some people think this is the end of our fight, and they couldn't be more wrong. This is only the beginning. We're just getting started, and we're going to have some exciting announcements in the days and weeks ahead. This is just the start of our campaign to bring common sense back to British Columbia and hopefully back to Canada.
So are you still a politician?
Well, it's funny that you asked that, Drea, because I don't feel like a politician. I never really felt like a politician 2 weeks ago either. I'm just an everyday British Columbian that's fed up with the direction that the province is going, feel that there's no real choices or no real alternatives when people go to vote, and was trying to make a difference. But one thing I can say, in the weeks and the months and the years ahead, I'm still going to be that person. I'm still going to be trying to make a difference, and I'm still going to be talking about the issues that matter to British Columbians and that matter to Canadians.
Now, this committee that came together and made this decision, we've reached out to them to get their side of the story with this. And for now, we have not heard back, but if I do hear so in a timely fashion, I'll go ahead and update that in the written article at rebelnews.com. So is this decision that they've made, this committee, is it written in stone? Is there any chance of you appealing it or anything like that?
So as far as we know, it's a done deal. But frankly, even if it wasn't, why would you want to go back to this party? I think in this month-long campaign, I have no regrets, because what it's done is showcase the rot that has taken place in the core of the BC Liberal Party. A lot of people suspected that it was there, and as far as I'm concerned, we just confirmed that it is.
And then what about these announcements? Can we get a little scoop on that? And does it have anything to do with the Conservative Party in British Columbia?
Well, we're looking at a couple different options right now. Like I said, we're going to have some announcements, I think, in the days and weeks ahead. But one thing that I just keep saying over and over again, this is not the end of our fight. We're just getting started. We're committed to this. And I think we'll have something that British Columbians can get excited about very soon.
Well, there you have it. That's the latest with Aaron Gunn. And Aaron, if people want to stay in touch on what's next with you, where should they go?
Well, the best thing to do to follow what I'm up to is on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Just type in my name. And you can also go to aarongunn.ca. Right now, it's still a campaign website, because right now that's what we were expected to do. We had about a dozen events planned. We were going to be crisscrossing British Columbia, but obviously that has changed. So, but that site will be back on how people can join the fight for this next chapter to get common sense back and turn this province around.
At Rebel News, we don't just fight to bring you the other side of the story, we also fight to defend freedoms in Canada. If you'd like to support our independent journalism, you can do so by donating at realreporters.ca. We appreciate your support.